Hello, welcome to Tuesday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where with some trepidation I am going to venture into the world of dailykillersudoku.com. We've had a request on the channel, you can see it there, that's on our Twitter account, which is @crypticcracking, to have a look at puzzle number 18731. So I'll put a link in the description of the video. You guys can go to the channel or go to that site and play this puzzle. It's a 9 out of 10 rated puzzle. So not quite as difficult as they think it can be, 10 out of 10 being the hardest, but in my experience the difficulty ratings on dailykillersudoku.com are a bit variable. Sometimes you can get puzzles that are 7 or 8 at difficulty which seem monstrously hard, and some of the 10 out of 10s surprisingly doable. So, right, let's have a go. Let's see what we can do. Let's start by picking off the squares that are immediately restricted. So I can see two 16 cages there. That must be 7 and 9. We can write in the value of this cell, and that's, the fundamental rule of Killer Sudoku is the importance of the number 45. Why 45? Because if you add up the numbers from 1 to 9, that's what you get. So if I've got this cage here, which sums to 43, and I know the total box adds to 45, well, that's got to be a 2. 12 in 4 cells is quite restricted, you can see there, but I don't see an immediate way of telling how to resolve that. Ooh, okay. So normally you pick off the easy boxes and then you start to look at the geometry of the grid to see if you can get anything from that. When I say geometry, I mean I want to use the 45 rule on rows and columns rather than boxes. So, I mean, if we look at the top here, if I highlight all of the... Oh, well, that is actually useful, believe it or not. But let's have a look at what I've done there. So I've highlighted the whole of the top row, which I know must add to 45, and these 4 extra cells here, which are all part of complete cages, and it tells me the sum of all of the highlighted cells here, which it's just got by adding 16 to 23 to 12 to 11 to 13, and it's got 75. So 75 minus the 45 for the top row means these 4 cells, need to add up to 30. And as they're all in the same row, they can't repeat digits. And the only way of making 30 without repeating a digit is with 6, 7, 8, and 9. So that gives us something. Although immediately I'm not seeing quite what. So this can't be a 6, obviously. So this square here is a 3, 4, or a 5. This must be a 2, 3, 4, or 5. Okay, that's not great, is it? So what would I look at next? He says, desperately trying to spot something to look at next. Well, one thing I like to do with the harder killer Sudokus is to note where numbers cannot go. That is sometimes useful. So I look at this 33 cage in the bottom right, and that has the number, it's 5 digits, so it can't contain a 1 or a 2. So let's have a look at this column and ask ourselves where a 1 can go in this column. It can't go in these 3 cells, it can't go in an 11 cage of 2 cells, and it can't go in this 13 cage. So there is a 1 in the 9 cage. Now, there's a beautiful bit of logic here. Yes, okay. Now, we can actually, you can see if we look at the combination for the 9s, given it contains a 1, the 2, 3, 4 option is ruled out. So it's either 1, 3, 5 or 1, 2, 6. But look at this 11 cage. Now, this 11 cage is impacted by the 16 cage here. So it can't be 4, 7 and it can't be 2, 9. So it's either going to be 3 and 8 or 5 and 6. Now those of you who are observant will notice that whether it's 3, 8 or 5, 6, it rules out the 1, 3, 5 combination here, because if this was 1, 3, 5, there would be no way to fill the 11 cage. So this is in fact 1, 2 and 6. So this now cannot be 5, 6, and must be 3, 8. Right. And there is a relationship between, you look at the sum of these 3 cages here, it's 35. So these 3 cells here must add up to 10. Now this is a bit restricted, obviously, the cell where the cursor is now. This is a 1, 2 or 6. So let's just think about this. If this is a 1, these 2 cells will have to add up to 8, and therefore this will be a 2. And if this is a 2, these will add to 7, this will be a 3. So there's always a 1 difference between the value of this cell and this cell. So this cell here can only be 2, 3 or 7. And that is interesting, is it? It is a bit interesting. This can't be a 1, therefore. If this is a 1 and therefore this is a 2, that's going to lead to a repeated 2 in this box, because if this is a 1, there will be a 2 in one of these 2 squares, and there'll be a 2 here. So this is not 1. This is not 2. And I guess one thing that I would give you as a tip here, you can see that I'm sweating these numbers. I'm really trying to make every number work very hard. You know, I'm noticing things like this 2 rules out a 2 from those 3 squares. There's no 2 in these 3 squares, therefore there's a 2 in one of those 3 squares, therefore there's a 2 in one of those 3 squares over there, which I can't see how to do anything with, but 33 must contain an 8 or a 9, and a 9, sorry, and look, we've got 8s here, so there must be an 8 in one of those 2 squares. And, oh, hang on, this 11 cage is interesting. Right, yes, I see. So this 11 cage, let's think about this. It's in the same row as a 5 cage. So I cannot select values for this 11 cage that rule out both of the options for a 5. Now a 5 in 2 cells can only be 1, 4 and 2, 3. So if, for example, I chose 1, 2 and 8 for this 11 cage, we could not fill the 5 cage anymore. So I'm going to be able to get rid of that one, get rid of that one, get rid of that one. Yeah, okay. Now, this is great, because now both of the remaining options for the 11 cage contain a 6. So you can see we're going to have a 6 plus 2 cells that add to 5, and then these 2 cells which add to 5. So the 2 combinations that make up 5 in 2 cells are going to appear in these 5 cells, i.e. 1, 4 and 2, 3 in some order. So effectively these 5 cells are given. They are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 and 6. That means in the rest of the row I must need 5. That can only be 5. This can't be a 9, obviously. And this must be 5, 7, 8 or 9. Now I can't have an 8. Well, this, we know there's an 8 in one of these 2 squares because of the 33 cage, so this can't be an 8. So this is 5, 7 or 2, 4. Ah, but now where can we put a 9 in this box? I can't put a 9. But this is quite interesting. I can't put a 9 in any of those cells for obvious reasons. Therefore the 9 is in the top part of this box. Therefore this is not a 9. This 16 cage resolves. 7, 9 in this order. And now let's do the same trick again and ask where we can put an 8 in this box. Well, I can't put an 8 in either of these squares because I've ruled out 8 from both of them. Can't put an 8 here, can't put an 8 here given we know this contains a 6. So there's an 8 up there as well. Now, yeah, I see. So now, if the 9 is in one of these two cells, obviously this 14 cage will be 5 and 9. Now if it's 5 and 9, look what happens to this 9 cage. If this is 5 and 9, this has to be 2 and 7, and then there is no way to fill the 8 cage, because we can't have 1 7, we couldn't have 2 6, and we couldn't have 3 5 because of the 5 in there. So the 9 must be here, and this is 6 and 8. And therefore there's no 6 there, this is a 6, 6, 6. Actually, hang on, now we can go further. Because there's no 3 in our 33 cage now, because we know the 3 is in one of those 5s, well, one of these, in one of the highlighted cells there, this 33 cage must be 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. That means there's a 4 in one of those two positions. In fact, this square must be a 4 or a 5 because it can't be 7, 8 or 9. This one must be 4, 5, 7. Can't be 8 because the 8's locked into. So this is 4, 5, 7. Okay. Right. Right, so these 4 cells, therefore, must be 1, 2, 3, and 6 in some order. This can't be a 2 because it's already got a 2 in the cage. There's a 6 over here, so there can't be a 6 in that row. So this 20 cage now, because this cell can only be a 1 or a 3, there's definitely, in this 20 cage, there's definitely a 2 and there's definitely a 6, because there must be a 2 and a 6 in these 3 squares. So the options here, are they going to be limited enough? Not really. But look at this. If along with the 2 and the 6 there is a 1, so if these 3 cells are exactly equal to 1, 2 and 6, that means we're either in this combination or this combination. Now this combination says that there would be a 3 and an 8 with the numbers 1, 2 and 6. Well look, that square there can't have a 3 or an 8 in it because there's already a 3 and an 8 in the box. If we're in this combination with a 1, 2 and a 6, then we need a 4 and a 7, but there can't be a 7 here because there's already a 7 in this box, and there can't be a 7 here because of this 7. So this cannot actually be 1, 2 and 6. Therefore, this is the 1, and this is 2, 3 and 6, which means it's one of these two options, and the other. So we've got 1 and 8, which would have to be this way round, or 4 and 5, which, bother. Okay, that's no good. Oh, bother. I thought that would crack it. Okay. God, 14 minutes and I'm still only got 6 numbers in the grid. Okay. Well, hang on, we could. Right, yeah, look at this 8 cage now. Now we've already got a 6 in this box. So this is not 2, 6. There's only two options left for this 8 cage. It's either 1, 7 or it's 3 and 5. But 3 and 5 breaks immediately. If this is 3 and 5, because of this 9 cage being the options here, you can see this square here would, if this is 3 and 5, this square has to be a 2, because this square cannot be a 5, it's going to be forced to be a 7. So we'd have 2, 3 and 5 in these three squares. And look, how can we, if we've got 2, 3 and 5 in these three squares, I need to put a 2 and a 3 in this square, and I can't do that. There's not enough space for the numbers 2 and 3 to appear in this box if this is a 2, 3 and 5. So this is not 3, 5, this is 1, 7, which means this is a 5 and this is therefore a 4, which means this is not a 4, that's not a 5, this isn't a 7, which means, look, we've got a 4 and a 5 pair now in this column, so that is not a 5. 7. Sorry, let me just spend a moment doing this a bit slowly, because I don't want to make a mistake here and undo the hard work. 2, 3, 6. Because we've got a 1 here now, this must be 2, 3, this must be 1, 4. 2, 3, 4, 1, 7. I feel like I should be able to do something more with this 2 now. There must be a 2 in one of those two squares, which means this cannot be a 2, because obviously that's part of the same box or cage. And in this column, all of these digits are effectively fixed. So this can be a 7, 9, this can be a 7 or a 9, therefore this can be a 6 or a 4. Now that's interesting, isn't it? So ask yourself something about that square. That square is interesting, because if this square is a 3, where can I put an 8 in the box? I could not put an 8 into an 11 cage, because that will give me a repeating 3. So there's not going to be a 3 in any of, and not going to be an 8 in any of those 4 cells. And look, the options for the other cells we've already eliminated 8 for. So this is not 3. This is 7. Now that means this is 6, I think, because we said there was a relationship of 1 between these two cells. Therefore, we get a 1 and a 2 there. Now we can't have a 2 there anymore, therefore this is not a 9. Can't have a 7 here, so this is not a 4. This 7 means that this actually gets resolved into being, oops, 9 and 4. This can't be a 4 now, this can't be an 8, I guess. Now, what are the options left there for? So this square is obviously impacted by the fact that these 4 squares add up, contain 6, 7, 8 and 9. So the options for this square are really limited. This can only be 3 or 5, I think. Therefore this can only be 6 or 8. 3, 5, 6, 8. This 7 here resolves the 7 and the 9, look. This must be a 7 at the bottom. This 9 here resolves the 9 and the 8 there. This 8 means that this top bit resolves itself to be, this must be 5 and 6. Now this should be 3 and 8 now, so that's tidied up this top box. 5 here means that this must be a 3 and this is a 9. Let's remove the 9 and the 6 from this square, remove the 6 and the 9 from that square. This 7 here means that this is an 8 in fact, and therefore that's a 7 over on this side. So these two squares now add up to 9. can't be 2, 7, 3, 6 or 4, 5. So this is a 1, 8 pair, which matches the 8's position down there. So there is an 8 in one of these 3 squares. If this was an 8, that would be 1, 3, which I think that's still possible. Can't quite see whether we can rule it out. Might be able to, but I think they're easier pickings. This 3, look, let's use that. That means that we can resolve the 2, 6. This must be a 3 here. This 4 at the top means that's a 4. That means this is an 8, if I remember rightly. I need a 5 into this square. 1. So I must need, what are we looking at there? 2 and 4 into these 2 squares. And this 2 here is part of this box. So this square definitely can't be a 2. It must be a 2 and 4 like that, which makes this a 5. Therefore, this is 4, 5 resolved. And maybe we're right on track to finish this now. So now this must be a 2. And that should be a 3. And that looks like that's working. So 2, 3, 9 into this 29 cage. So that's going to rule out several of these options. Look, let's go and have a look. Oh, it's only this one. So this is a 7, 8 pair. That's 7 and an 8 in that order. That resolves the 8 and the 3 over on this side. That means this is an 8 by straightforward Sudoku. This is a 7 because of the 7 here, 7 here, and this 7 here. Therefore, this is a 7. These 2 squares add up to 15 in a 23 cage, so this must be 2 and 6. And bother. No, that isn't resolvable. Well, it might be, but I can't quite see how to do that. Let's have a look at this column just to check. We need 1, 4 and 6. So this is 1, 4, 6. This is 1, 4, 6. Oh, bother. Okay. Let's check this 24 cage though, because we've got these 2 cells have to add up to 10. And this can't be a 9, so this can't be a 1. So this is a 4, 6 pair, which means that this is not a 6. Therefore, 6 moves over to this side. And this should be a 1 and a 5. Now you can see immediately, if we try and put a 1 into that square, that breaks the 12 cage, because we'd have to put 11 into these 2 cells. Can't be 5, 6. Can't be 4, 7. Can't be 3, 8. Can't be 2, 9. Therefore, this is not a 1. These 2 squares have to add to 7 and must be 3 and 4. And we have a 4 already in one of those 2 squares. So in fact, that's resolvable. This 3 helps at the bottom. This 7 actually resolved that 7. Look, I didn't see that. And hopefully this square will have to be a 5. This 1 resolves the right hand side of the grid, and this should be a 4. 1, 5, 4 into those squares. You can see that adds up to 10. These 2 squares have to add to 11. So looking at 2, 9 or 3, 8. 3, 8 is impossible because we can't have an 8 in either of these squares. So this is 2 and 9. And we know there's a 2 in one of those 2 squares. So the 9 must be here. This is a 2. Therefore, this is a 9. Which the 15 cage now must be 9, 1, 2 and 3. And can we resolve that? Yes, this is the only place a 3 can go. So this is a 1, 2 pair. That removes the 1 there. That forces the 1 downwards. Look. I think we have finished now. These puzzles, once you get to this point, it's extremely unusual for them to hold you up much further. But definitely a challenge, as you can see by the length of the video. I'm sorry about that, but sometimes these take some real, they take a lot of fiddling about with to work out how to get through them. The thing I like about them though is that the logic is always interesting. it's, you know, they are doable. You just have to spot the sort of linear method that the computer, I think these are computer generated, but I do admire the algorithm that's used to test them. So thanks for watching. If you enjoy this, please do subscribe to the channel and give us a thumbs up. We appreciate that. And we'll be back soon with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.